Welcome to Rails, Ales, and Old Towns. You know, it's been a while since I last visited Slovenia, and after speaking with today's guest, I'm even more excited to get back than I was before. On today's show, I'm joined by Ksenija from Beer Way Slovenia, a tour company that combines great beer, the great outdoors, and great local experiences. Ksenija takes us on a tour of her beautiful home country, sharing insider tips for the charming capital of Ljubljana, advice for visiting Lake Bled and the stunning Soča Valley, and introduces us to a few special small towns where local traditions are still going strong. One known for a jaw-dropping alpine meadow and unique cheese, another that's becoming a dream destination for craft beer lovers, and yet another famous for its world-class hops and for having one of the most unique ways to sip a beer in all of Europe. Naturally, Ksenija also tells us about Beer Way Slovenia and all the special experiences they offer. All right, let's go to Slovenia.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform.
Welcome to Rails, Ales, and Old Towns. Ksenija from Beer Way Slovenia. Ksenija, thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
This is a long overdue episode because I love Ljubljana, I love Slovenia, I love beer. So it was about time that I spoke with you. I noticed Beer Way Slovenia a while back on doing some research on a potential trip. I made note, had to talk to you. I guess we should just start off the top, if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about yourself and I'm assuming your love for Slovenia.
Well, yeah, actually, I am like a promoter of Slovenia since a very long time ago. It started just like promoting Slovenia among friends, but I actually do work in tourism in general on the national level as well, not just local one. So I used to like go to tourist fairs around Europe and just promote Slovenia, invite people to come over. So I am a big fan of Slovenia for sure. It's my home country. I like living here. I think it has a lot to offer. It's a very diverse and interesting country of a very small scale, and I think you can find both fun and just peace in this country as well.
When you were going around to those fairs and selling, fellow Europeans on Slovenia, what was your major selling point that you were trying to, if you were in the elevator with people, the elevator pitch, what was it?
I think I'm gonna sound like everybody now, because I guess everybody is saying the same thing about Slovenia. So basically, yeah, it's a country where 4 different regions and climates and cultures meet, and it's just a very small scale country where you can visit everything in one day. So basically, Ljubljana, the capital, is situated in the center of the country, and then every day you go somewhere else and you see something completely different. You experience a different kind of culture and architecture and people, and it's just a very big diversity in a very small country, let's say, which is also easy to travel around. And I think the best part of Slovenia at the moment is the fact that it still stays kind of small in terms of cities. The capital of Ljubljana, there's only 300,000 people living there, and the whole city center is close to traffic. So basically, even though this is a period of time where there's lots of people coming, visiting, and locals are in the town as well, you don't feel crowded. You don't feel like there's a lot of stress in the city. Everybody just goes sit somewhere along the river and have their beer or something else. So I think it's a country that's very, relaxing, not only for those visiting, but also for those living.
It seems like you manage, with all these great things you have in Slovenia, it still just manages that you keep the right level. You don't seem to get always overcrowded. At least that's the impression I get. Maybe at Lake Bled, possibly. But it seems like things are just perfectly right in this country.
Yeah. Well, I guess since you visited, it's more crowded now. So there's for sure a certain period of time when it gets more crowded. I wouldn't compare it to like the bigger tourist destinations. So it still stays quite okay, I think. I think it's still okay. If you ask the locals, it depends on where they live. But at the same time, like Slovenians at our heart, we just love the nature and we protect the nature. So the laws are made the way that they sometimes prevent big infrastructural, because we just try to, protect the nature as much as possible, and we will not easily allowed starting to build like a lot of tourist infrastructure where the nature is at the moment. So yeah, we stay kind of traditional.
These mountains, these Julian Alps you have, just absolutely breathtaking. And then you've got, in the same day, you can be on the beach.
Exactly, yeah. You have the Alps, you have the sea, you have the Pannonian Plain, you have the karst area with the most visited caves of Europe. So it's like a lot of different things.
It's remarkable. I got to get back sometime very soon. So
you should.
Let's talk about the capital. How do I pronounce it to sound like a cool local?
Okay, so since we're talking about beer as well, if you just remember the name of one brewery in Ljubljana, you will know how to pronounce it as a local. So officially we say Ljubljana with all the J's that we pronounce as Y's, but the locals would just say Ljubljana. Ljubljana. And the cool locals say Ljubljana, and there's one brewery in Ljubljana that is basically named Ljubljana with the pronunciation, the phonetical name of how we pronounce it as locals. So yeah, once you know how to pronounce the name of this brewery, you will know how to pronounce the name of the city also as a local. Ljubljana.
Okay, so Ljubljana, the capital, as you mentioned, just very pedestrian friendly, peaceful. I remember it. Just it's a peaceful place. You've got this river cutting right through the center of the city. Gorgeous bridges, from your famous local architect, Pleknik. What do you love about Ljubljana?
Well, basically everything you just mentioned. Well, it's a capital. So it has everything that you will find in other capitals as well. But it's a lot different, I think, to the other capitals. Already the pedestrian zone, like the city center, the historical part of the city, closed to traffic in 2007. This is like almost 20 years ago. You have this big pedestrian zone and you just walk along the river. There's lots of terraces, lots of cafes, bars, just everywhere you go. Everything is a walking distance as well. I mean, in the city center, you can, of course, explore outside of the city center as well, because there's really some cool parts of the city that are, let's say, where the locals gather. So it's also, I suggest to everybody visiting Ljubljana, if they stay for more days, to go outside of the city center as well, to have a drink somewhere in another part of the city. But anyway, if you stay in the city center, you just are, greeted with like an atmosphere. You have a feeling like nobody's working here. And often people ask me, like, when do you work? Because, whenever we are in the city center of Ljubljana, there's always just so many people sitting along the river, having a coffee and then having a drink and having wine and beer in the evening. So whenever we're there, there's just full of people, if the weather permits it, of course. So they often ask me, do you even work in Ljubljana? So I think this is one important thing to experience when you come to the capital. Just take some time, sit somewhere, and observe the people passing by and have a drink, enjoy usually the nice weather we have most of the year. So this is something to experience. But of course, there's also a lot of sights to see.
What are a couple things that you would say, definitely don't miss this?
And that's a tough thing to say, because most people will visit what you find in the city center. And for sure, they are worth the visit. Like, for example, yes, we have this architect you mentioned, Jože Plečnik. He's a UNESCO architect in Ljubljana, but he also worked in Vienna and Prague. You can also find his work outside of Slovenia. So he's important not only on a local level, but also, let's say, Central European level. You can visit the house where he lived. in Ljubljana. I think this is something that, well, not many people go to. It is a very well-known place, but mostly visited by those that are passionate by architecture. But I think it's something everybody should visit. You have like this very nice guided tours limited to a small number of people. So the groups stay small and they will just tell you everything about the life of this architect. And he was a very interesting guy, let's say. So when you actually see what he was doing, how he arranged his house, and what was behind his thinking when he was arranging it the way he was, you understand his architecture a lot better as well.
He's not just any old architect. This is someone that, am I right in assuming that almost all Slovenians would know and have respect for?
Everybody, for sure. Yeah, everybody knows about him, yeah.
Rock star architect.
Exactly, yeah, he's a rock star architect. So basically, very often we speak about like important figures with a lot of respect, and we somehow consider them, I don't know, like saints even, but they were all just people. Sure. So for sure, Plečnik was somebody some people loved and some people hated. So so yeah, he for sure is one of the rock stars of Slovenia.
So check out his home, learn a bit about him. And then what about, is there anything else you would say, you definitely don't want to miss this one?
I mean, like a lot of people go visit the castle in Ljubljana. The castle is very interesting, but you need to take time to learn more about it, because mostly people just come there, see the viewpoint. What I like doing, and I think most tourists miss, basically on the castle hill, you have really beautiful pathways that will lead you to, different parts of the castle hill, where you have beautiful views on Ljubljana as well, when basically you're almost the only one there seeing the same point of view. You can walk through the forest, and you can even reach the vineyard of Ljubljana. We have a vineyard, and we're producing our own wine in Ljubljana castle as well, which is a very limited quantity. But anyway, so most people, I think, if they decide to go see the castle, they would take a funicular up and down and see the view, and then they would maybe quickly look through some of the exposition and not even see everything in the museum. I don't think many people actually take time to just walk a bit further on from the castle and just enjoy the surrounding area of the castle on the castle hill, because this is a place, like, there's a lot of tourists coming up there, but as soon as you go, like, I don't know, 100 meters away from the castle, it just gets limited to a few travelers and a few locals. And I think this is something that is a bit missed out as well. But as a local, you always, you partially are happy to share these spots with others, but partially you prefer to keep them for yourself. So yeah.
Okay, but you've been kind enough to share it with us, so we appreciate that.
Yeah.
And this castle, if the city wasn't pleasant enough, but it's just right in the middle, right overlooking everything.
Yeah. In the Middle Ages, this was like a perfect location to make a city, because you have a hill where you can put a castle or a tower, defense tower on. You have a river that protects the city, because the city was below the hill and next to the river. So yeah, it was throughout the history, it was important as well for the defense. But now as visitors, it's just, you have everything. It's just like wherever you go in Ljubljana, you have this beautiful sights, panoramic sights, and it gives the city a different dimension as well. You walk around and you see this castle peeking out from different squares and bridges and so on.
Yeah, it's just like the perfect cherry on top of the city,
Yeah.
Okay, so you've talked about a couple things that you can't miss those. Is there anything else?
The other one is walking along the Sava River, which is not the one going through Ljubljana. This one is called Ljubljanica, but there's also Sava River further up north of Ljubljana. So again, we're outside of the city center. There's really nice walking paths along the river as well, and you go through this residential parts of Ljubljana, where you just see these cute little houses next to the river, but at the same time you will find some bars and some restaurants nearby as well, so we can basically go for a few hours walk just along the river and enjoy some good food and drinks as well, not only nature. Yeah.
after you did a walk, what's a place that you would recommend to go have a beer?
As you mentioned, I only mention things the outdoors. Even if we're in the capital, I speak about the outdoors. So in general, Slovenians were very attached to the nature and the outdoor activities. So on the tours we do, we also offer tours that are a full day. I mean, full day, 7 hours long, when we combine outdoors with beer tastings. So this is one important part. To go enjoy the beer, there's also this bar that we, on one of the tours we visit, that is basically on the Ljubljana river, but outside of the city center. It's really not far away. Like I said, you just go, you walk out of the pedestrian zone, you walk for 10 minutes and you're there. But because, it's outside of the pedestrian zone, many people don't even get there. So there's lots of locals there. It's called Bober Bar. Cool atmosphere. Sometimes you smell some weed somewhere. It's just, people enjoying having fun, and it's next to the river. So it's like a cozy bar. They have a very nice selection of local craft beers. But at the same time, there's lots of locals that just go for a drink. They just go to relax, enjoy. They also rent out canoes and kayaks and boats and so on. So you can just, either stay there on their terrace, enjoy a nice sunny day, or even rent something and just go, paddle a bit up and down the river as well. So this is for sure one of the bars that I think it's quite popular with the locals, but not very known among the tourists.
Okay, this sounds like a perfect spot. You said Bobber?
Bobber Bar. Yeah.
Like bobber, like something that bobs in the water?
No, I will need to check what's the name. It's an animal, the one that eats the wood on the river.
Oh, beaver. Oh, okay.
Beaver, yeah,
okay.
Let's say beaver bar. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Bobber bar. Okay.
Beaver bar.
Okay,
yeah.
got it. Well, that's a perfect name for a bar on the river.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so before we move away from Ljubljana for the minute, Ljubljana, there is just one thing I have to mention. Have you ever heard of pizza burek?
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
Let's say I kind of like it. The thing is that burek is not really a Slovenian dish, let's say. And we somehow inherited it from a little other Yugoslav countries, but we made a special recipe. So we combined burek with pizza, and we made pizza burek. Something, if you ask other nations, they would say this is not a burek at all. But Slovenians, we say, yeah, this is probably the best burek we can have. So yeah, there's many people that are big fans of it in Slovenia, yeah.
Burek it's like a flaky pastry with assorted fillings. It's kind of like a phyllo style pastry.
Yeah.
But what you've done in Ljubljana is somebody somehow managed to merge that with a pizza. Flaky pastry on the outside, but inside tomato, cheese, and toppings.
Exactly, yeah.
And I don't remember the details. I just remember I had it like 2 nights in a row after having a few beers, and I remember it very well. And I think they taste better the more beers you've had.
For sure.
See, that is something that people enjoy still.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Outside of Ljubljana, obviously we know Lake Bled is world famous. The fairy tale lake with an island. Is there a couple places else that you would say, to put on people's radar when they're passing through?
Lake Bled for sure is worth a visit, but maybe coming outside of the May season is a better idea. I really like it in the autumn time, in the winter time. So when it's either very colorful with all the trees changing color, or in the wintertime when there's a lot of snow. Not without the snow, but with snow for sure. So yeah, this is when you will be almost the only tourists there. It's very busy in the summer, which I understand as well, but I think off-season is also very nice. But then, of course, yeah, there's other parts of Slovenia you can visit. Soča Valley, for example, which is a beautiful emerald river going through the mountains. And it's a beautiful place to go as well. Again, in the summertime, there will be lots of people coming for rafting and outdoor sports. Coming off season is really magical as well.
Yeah, and that Soča, valley, that river, like we're talking like this is the kind of thing you can't believe how blue that river is.
It is, yeah, yeah. It's well, similar to Bled Lake. One of the things why people are so attracted to it is because it's this very bright blue color. And the river of Socha as well. These are just, waters in the alpine area, coming straight from the mountains, but also very well protected. Like on the Bled Lake, you're not allowed to take any motor boats on it, so they're really trying to, preserve the
Right.
quality of the water. Socha River is a very wild river. In the upper part of the valley, you really have this wild river carving its way through the valley, and it's really of this beautiful clear color, but also, let's say, emerald kind of a color, probably also for the fact that the whole region is made in limestone, and this is something that gives it this special color as well.
Okay, so a little geology.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of those no motorboats on Bled, when I was there with my friend Ryan, and we tried to row out to the island. And let's just say that rowing is not a skill that either of us possess. And somehow we ended up just going in a circle about halfway, and then we had to go back in and just give up. So I still need to make it out to the island.
Yeah, you should try it for the second time. Or maybe just go with the traditional plitna boat, There's this traditional wooden boat where you take, where the rower takes you there, so you don't need to do anything. They will do all the work for you, and you for sure get there. Well, I think doing it yourself is a nicer way to visit because you can take as much time as you want. You're not pressured. You just, if you want, you can take more time to get to the island, take more time to visit the island. So for sure, it was a good idea. But in case you don't know how to row, maybe it's better to go with the
It would be good to know how to row.
providers. Yeah.
It's tricky. It's trickier than it looks. You actually have to know what you're doing. Is there anything else outside of Ljubljana?
You have historical towns close to Bled. You have Radovljica, but you also have, for example, maybe two less visited towns that I like that are also still in the mountain area. So the first one is Škofja Loka, which is actually the town where I was born. Again, about, I don't know, 20, 25 kilometers away from Ljubljana, so very close by. But an old historical town with the castle, with its old historical heart. A very beautiful place to visit with lots of history, lots of culture, lots of craft, UNESCO heritage, passion play. For sure, a place to visit. Next to the city, you have lots of very beautiful region to just do some outdoor activities if this is something you look for. And then the other one is Kamnik, where I live now. So basically, Kamnik, again, an old historical town with a very beautiful city center. Used to be the capital of the Carniola region. So for a certain time in the Middle Ages, it was even, say, more important than Ljubljana. But later on, the commercial roads changed, and Ljubljana started to grow bigger and more important. Town with lots of history, with some beautiful historical sites and a cozy, small historical center, but with really beautiful outdoors. Here we are next to the Alps. So basically, you just drive 15 minutes away from Kamnik. Like, you can go hiking really high mountains, above 2,000 meters, let's say. And you can also visit one alpine pasture surrounded by the mountains that is called Velika Planina. So this is where every summertime the farmers would bring cows up. They would stay there throughout the summertime. You also find these old cottages, shepherds' cottages, where the shepherds used to live, and they still are. Those who still come back to the mountain, they still live there. It's a very beautiful place to see in terms of landscape, outdoors, but also just some history and cultural heritage as well. And one thing that is a fun thing to find when you're on the mountain. So if you come when the shepherds are here, you can get some fresh cheese called trnič. If you come outside of the season, you can just buy it a packed one, and you can take it home. And it's a cheese made in a shape of female breast. The legend says that basically when the shepherds were out in the mountains, they spent a few months up there, and they were missing girls and their girlfriends maybe, so were making the cheese in this shape. And when they could go back down to the valley, if a girl accepted this cheese, this meant that she likes him as well. But if she ate it, this was a bad sign if she didn't keep it in a memory of his. Very interesting local thing to taste as well when you're on the mountain.
Okay. All right. That's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform.
Sorry for the interruption, but I just wanted to take a second to say thanks for listening to Rails, Ales, and Old Towns. I hope you're enjoying the show and it's helping you get excited for your next European adventure. Be sure to check out the episode description because that's where you'll find a link to the show notes and the show's social media info. There's also a link there where you can support the podcast by buying me a beer. I mean coffee, definitely a coffee. All joking aside, any support goes toward keeping the episodes flowing and the show growing. And last but not least, if you are enjoying what you're hearing and you have a spare minute, I'd be forever grateful if you were to leave a review on the platform you're listening on, as those little things really do go a long way. Back to the show.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform.
Now we need to talk about Beer Way Slovenia. So how did you start it?
So it actually started during COVID. So I was living in Ljubljana before COVID started. And during COVID, so me and my boyfriend were thinking to move out of Ljubljana because, Ljubljana is perfect when there's no lockdown, but when there's lockdown, it's just a sad place like every other city. So basically, as I come from Škofja Loka, which is a small town, I felt like a bit nostalgic and I said, okay, maybe it's time to move back to a smaller place, even though Ljubljana is still quite small. So we ended up in Kamnik. Basically, moving to Kamnik, we learned that, there's 4 breweries in Kamnik. They're really doing good. Some of them are like one of the first ones or the most successful ones in Slovenia. I was somehow attracted to this idea. And I do work in tourism. I did before, and I still work in other fields as well, developing different kind of tourist products. So this was something that I found attractive, having this much diversity in beer in such a small town. And there is this local that is actually American, Noah Charney, and he's a journalist. And he was writing a few years before that Kamnik is one of the towns with the most breweries per capita in the world. So he was a big promoter of this idea. So once we got there, I started to think, okay, maybe, doing something with beer would be interesting in Kamnik. But my boyfriend is more like an outdoorsy person. He was like, no, let's do something with the outdoors. So we said, okay, let's do both. So the first tour we created in Kamnik was an outdoors tour with beer tastings. We still offer it, but since then we've made many other tours as well, because then we realized that not everybody is able to hike. Not everybody has enough time or budget. So basically, we started with this a full day tour where we go hike around Kamnik and we visit the local breweries, we taste their beers, get to meet the brewers. We just enjoy some very good street food that you find in Kamnik as well. And later on, we started with offering also just smaller packages with tastings, brewery visits, to be able to just, cover everybody that comes to Kamnik and wants to enjoy some good beer. And now it has been 5 years since we're doing these tours in Kamnik, a bit less in Ljubljana. And we're really happy with the visits we get now, yeah.
So what makes Kamnik this center of beer?
There's 4 breweries in Kamnik, which is a lot for such a small scale town. All of them are very different one to the other. We have one of the oldest microbreweries of Slovenia. So in Slovenia, this trend started about 10-15 years ago. So we have this one microbrewery called Maligrad that is, I think now it will be 12 years since they've started. Also one of the, let's say, maybe most famous microbreweries of Slovenia. Then we have the brewery called Meister Brewery, which is I would say one of the biggest microbreweries of Slovenia as well at the moment. So a very successful brewery. But then we also have two smaller breweries. We have Barut Brewery. They are like little geniuses, you know. They started, the three friends, they started as students. They were studying yeast. So one of them even has PhD in yeast.
That's a good thing to be a PhD in if you're brewing.
Yeah, no, so they first had this education and then they started brewing. They were like, okay, we already know so much about yeast. They actually go out, hunt the yeast. You know, there's lots of wild yeast in the forest, in the fields, and so on. So they go out and they collect things like grass, other herbs, and so on. And they will go to the lab and they will collect the wild yeast. They will take it out. They will experiment with it. And if it gives good results, they would keep it. So they are, you know, just... they have their own yeast that they use for their brews. So they started really crazy with this wild yeast beers. When you have wild yeast, you know, also the taste of the beer changes a bit. They did lots of sour beers. This was their like niche that they wanted to follow. So sour beers, they age sour beers in wooden barrels, you know, that the winemakers were using before and so on. So they do really crazy stuff. Then later on, they realized that they cannot do just this because, you know, the market is still quite small. So this is one part of what they do. So they do really crazy wild yeast sour beers, but they also do just like very nice regular beers in all kinds of different styles. All the three of them are in the city, and one of them, the fourth one, is outside of the city. It's on the countryside of Kamnik. A very, very small brewery. Basically, it's like an additional thing they do on the farm. And they also have their own plantation of hops. So basically, they're using their own hops to make their own beers. And their beers are, it's like a very small brewery. You would not really see a big production there, but you will see just a few, you know, fermentator where they work in. And this is also a very interesting story, I think. So the fact that we have such a big diversity of different breweries in a one small town. Many of them are like very successful. Some of them are small scale, but successful on a local level, let's say among the people of Kamnik and the outdoor suburbs of Kamnik. It's a place that gives you a lot of diversity and you can really taste all kinds of different beers on our tours, which is also the idea of the tours we do. These are tasting tours. The idea is to really educate people to see what the local breweries have to offer. So you get to meet different kind of styles of beer. You get the whole explanation of how the beer is made, what kind of styles we know. And you just go from the very light, easy drinkable beers to very complex beers, such as, let's say, sour beer aged in oak barrels. So basically, we have a big diversity of different kinds of beers that you can taste in Kamnik.
Okay, now please tell me there's a train I can take from Ljubljana to Kamnik.
Of course.
Okay, good.
But, you know, this is something, I say of course, but it's not something we can take for granted, because this is the train that takes you only to Kamnik and then the railway stops. Because Kamnik used to be, like I said, a very important town back in the Middle Ages, but especially also with the Industrial Revolution, there was lots of important factories in Kamnik. Which meant that it was a very rich city, and one of the owners of a factory, he was really missing having a railway, so he could just, you know, send merchandises towards Ljubljana. So basically, he was the one to finance the railway to Kamnik, which means that we have our own railway. So you do a very short distance, but it still takes you about 40 minutes to get to Kamnik from Ljubljana. But we always encourage people to take the train when they come to our tours. We have the tour scheduled on the arrivals of the train to Kamnik. So basically, we always say, look, you come into this tour that starts at 5. We suggest you to take the train, I think, you know, starting from Ljubljana, 4:15 or something, whatever. And the train stop is just next to where we meet. It's like 3 minutes walk.
This is the perfect example of rails, ales, old towns, because I'm sure Kamnik has got a pretty old town.
It does have a pretty old town. Yeah, but it's also a very responsible way to travel when you drink. So when I mentioned the tours we do for individuals, So we have a few packages that we only do on Fridays because they also include visits to the brewery, and this is for individuals starting with 2 persons. So if there's just a couple or 2 friends that want to come, if they come on Friday, they will get the whole package. But if they cannot come on a Friday, we also offer shorter packages where we do the beer tastings, but not necessarily visit the brewery. As you know, the brewers are also limited with their resources. Their priority is to brew beer. But if you come in a bigger group of friends or family or however, we always adapt to your needs. So there's different options how to join our tours, either in a private group or just as 2 individuals. We will make it happen for you, but on the regularly scheduled tours.
And then, if let's say we can't make it to this beautiful beer town of Kamnik and we're just going to go in Ljubljana, I want to ask about the tours you have in Ljubljana on Fridays. I love how you've tied into the river. You got people out in one of these traditional boats.
We also do tours in Ljubljana. And like I said, the first tour we started in Kamnik was outdoors with beer tastings and visits to a brewery. So we wanted to do the same thing in Ljubljana, right? This was the first idea of the tours we started to do. So we like to combine it with the outdoors. So in Ljubljana, of course, we could also do hiking, but what is the main thing in Ljubljana is for sure the river. Everything happens along the river. People enjoy having a drink along the river. People in the summertime would go, I don't know, take a stand-up paddle on the river or a boat on the river. So this is how we connected the 2 things. So we start the tour with the outdoor activities. We go on a boat and we paddle a bit on the river towards the Ljubljana marshes. This is like a protected nature area of Ljubljana. Of course, we have a few sips of beer on the way as well, and before starting to paddle. And then we drop the boat tour when we get to the city center. So we just go out of the boats in the city center, and this is where we start walking around the city center. So we go from one pub to the other, and we enjoy the beer, some really good food as well. And we end up at one brewery of Ljubljana that is in the city center, Tectonic Brewery. So it's, sports with beer, but sports at the beginning of the tour to make sure that after we had a few beers, we're nice and safe walking around the city and not, endangering somebody on the river.
No, we don't want that. But this riverscape in Ljubljana, it's got these beautiful trees. I don't know what do you know the name of the type of trees they are, but there's these gorgeous, like, hanging branches.
I know the name in Slovenian. It's verba, but I can Google it in English. I'm not sure what the name is. Yeah.
Let's just say they're pretty trees. They're almost they're kind of like those weeping. They're hanging down, and
I think it's called something weeping. I don't know.
Weeping willows.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay, and when you look online and you see people have taken your tours just in these trees, and I mean, it couldn't be a better way to start a weekend.
This is also why we have the tour scheduled on Fridays and weekends, because this is where most people come, either to Ljubljana or Slovenia in general. So it's a great way to start your day in Ljubljana. If you don't have the whole Friday in Ljubljana, then you can also just join the Friday evening tour on a boat. We also have beer tastings on a boat in Ljubljana. So basically, if you don't have the time or the budget or the interest, you take a 1-hour tour with the boat. You will see also the green outskirts of Ljubljana on a boat and the city center from a different perspective. And you get to taste 4 beers of 4 different local breweries of Ljubljana in the region of Ljubljana.
Oh, that sounds great.
But I wanted to mention one more thing. During the season of hops, we also do tours in Žalec, which is like the center of hops in Slovenia. We are usually 3rd or 4th in Europe by the production of hops, and 5th or 6th in the world by the production of hops. So basically, yes, we are very important in the hops production. Most of it is concentrated in Žalec. So basically, we also have a shorter and longer outdoor tours in Žalec, where we go walk along the hop fields and also visit the hops producers, brewers, taste local beers of Žalec. Even in Žalec, that is even smaller than Kamnik, we have 4 breweries. So basically, these are all let's say, 3 towns, 3 cities that have a very important tradition of brewing. And you get to really experience the local stories and local environments, local landscapes and nature through also beer tastings and visiting. But we also have the first beer fountain in the world, and this is in Žalec, where we do the tours.
I have to follow up on that. A beer fountain.
Yeah, this is like something dating back to, I think, 2015 or something, about 10 years ago or more. Basically, like I said, the town of Žalec is like the center of the hops culture in Slovenia. And they also have an institute that will every year create new sorts of hops. So this is something very important for the region. So about 10 or more years ago, somebody won Euro jackpot in Žalec. And all of a sudden, the municipality of Žalec got some money.
Okay.
And they had a mayor at that time who was really got this idea, crazy idea. We're the center of hops. Why not making the first beer fountain in the world where we will have only beers that are made with our hops? So he was all into this idea, but the locals didn't agree. So they were protesting against it, and they were like, no, what is wrong with you? You're supporting alcohol. You should be building roads, renovating schools, and so on. And you just want to, make a place of alcoholism in our, town's park. This is not okay. So they were really, really not supportive, and they had protests organized and so on. But he was very convinced that this will work. So he did the municipality, they did this beer fountain, and they had this plan how much of the mugs they will sell by the end of the season. And the season is about, I don't know, maybe half a year. And in, I think, 2 months' time, they sold all the mugs. So basically, it became such a hit. Everybody was coming. There was lots of journalists coming to see what is a beer fountain. There was just so many visitors coming that all of a sudden it became a very important site to see and visit in Slovenia. Back then, not all Slovenians knew where Žalec is, and today everybody knows where it is because of it as well. It's not like, let's say, an actual fountain where the beer is just wasted. It's like in the town center, you have taps. So you have, I think, 6 different taps. Every of the taps, you have a different beer of local breweries or breweries that are brewing beer with the hops of Žalec. So basically, they will, a few times throughout the season, they will change the beers for new ones. So you have really a nice way to taste local beers or the beers made with local hops. You buy like a souvenir mug that has a chip on it, and you go around with this mug to different taps in this park, and you can serve yourself any of the beers you get. So basically, it's a self-service. So it's a very nice way to actually taste local beers, like in the town's park with a very nice atmosphere. Yeah.
This mayor, I think I like him.
Yeah. I don't know if they still have the same one, but for sure he did one important thing for this town. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say the locals were protesting the beer fountain, and then the mayor said, free beer for all citizens. And then they changed their mind.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure about that because I'm not their citizen, but maybe they have like a secret pact.
Maybe a discount. Yeah. And so can we get to this town on a train too?
Well, actually you can. This is the train that takes you from Ljubljana towards Maribor. So the second biggest city of Ljubljana, and you stop on the way. It's one of the stops on the way. So this is towards eastern Slovenia, yeah.
Okay, Ksenija, you've made a great case for why, Slovenia needs to be on beer lovers' radar. And sounds like some really fun experiences to be had in the country with Beer Way. What's the best way to book and to keep in touch?
Yeah, we're Beer Way Slovenia on social media. You will find our webpage at beerway.si, yeah, beerway.si, or follow us on social media, Beer Way Slovenia. You can reach out anytime.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, and hope to see you at some point soon.
Great. So
Okay.
you're always welcome to come.
All right, Ksenija.
Thank you.